remember as a young kid, I'd pray, God, why me? Why me? Why do I have to be this way? Why do I have to constantly change? And so I was always internalizing and watching people and changing my behavior to be that masculine kid. Maybe I wasn't, but I surely tried. And I became this hardened young man where it started affecting me because I started drinking at an early age and I just wanted to be dead. And the reality is death is a teacher. And I struggled with who I was and who I was as a human. And then it just became a struggle.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to A Queer POV. I'm your host, David Bigor. If you walked into my gym and picked out the one person you'd most want to hug, the teddy bear of a man with a huge smile and the big infectious laugh that you can hear from across the gym, you'd be pointing to today's guest. And if you've been to Steel Gym in Palm Springs, you know exactly who I'm talking about. And here's the thing about Carl. He'll tell you that he can be a lot, but he's actually the opposite. He spent his life editing himself as a kid in New Mexico, in his Navy career, in relationships where he gave his own values away just to be loved. And then one day, he made the decision to stop. Not because anything got easier, but because he did the slow, unglamorous work of learning to love the one person he never really let himself love, himself. So, I've got a lot of questions for Carl. Let's get into it. This is A Queer POV, and this is my friend, Carl. Hi, Carl. Welcome to the show.
Hi, David. Thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to this interview with you and hanging out with you.
This experience.
Most definitely, yes.
Yeah, this is the next level in my friendships. You have to come on my show and interview.
Oh, is that what it is? And then you're in?
Yeah, and then you're in.
No, it ain't gonna happen.
I want to start with you back at the beginning. So you were this kid who grew up in New Mexico, yes. And then eventually you, after you left home, you joined the military.
Yep, the Navy.
And then now at 50, you're moving in with a new man, a love of your life. And what I want to talk about is the journey from that kid in New Mexico to today. So let's go back to you in New Mexico as a little kid, discovering who he is, your sexuality, and all that. What was that like for you?
So growing up in New Mexico, I realized at an early age, in third grade, I wanted to be a cheerleader. And I could remember hanging out with all the girls, and I was cheering, S-P-S-P-I-R-I-T, let's hear it. And I could just remember someone said, joto. And from there, my life changed. That meant fag. And in third grade, I became very aware on how individuals, humans, can hurt. And so since then, I internalized everything and I started changing who I was because I didn't want to be looked upon as a joto, as a fag. So at an early age, and then my Catholic upbringing was, you're guilty, you're abomination, there's no way you can exist. And I remember as a young kid, I'd pray, God, why me? Why me? Why do I have to be this way? Why do I have to constantly change? And so I was always internalizing and watching people and changing my behavior to be that masculine kid. Maybe I wasn't, but I surely tried. And I became this hardened young man where it started affecting me because I started drinking at an early age and I just wanted to be dead. And the reality is death is a teacher. And I struggled with who I was and who I was as a human. And then it just became a struggle. And I could remember my cousin Francine, who died at 17. She was my angel. She was always saying, Carl, don't hang out with those people. Carl, you're going to be okay. And I remember one night I was in high school, and I got really drunk one night, and I woke up the next morning and I realized that death was upon me. I just knew that if I didn't change my direction. I just graduated from high school. I was didn't my brother was going to college. I had no plans of doing nothing other than I graduated. Now what? I was always a super hyper crazy kid that couldn't focus, that didn't know where to go. I started working at 13, worked for these amazing women that June and Sarah Kelly, and I worked for them, and and so I was always working, but um, I didn't know what to do. And so my only escape was I'm going to join the US Navy. And so I remember waking up and driving to the recruiter and saying, I want to join the US Navy. And they said, son, you're only 17. You have to ask your parents for permission. And I said, okay, just sign me up. I said, I'm going to go drive back home. I'm going to tell my mom. And literally, it all took place really quick. I wasn't supposed to leave till November of that year of 1988, 34 freaking years ago. And Lord and behold, November never came because they called me a month later, said, you're leaving in August. And I said, hell no, I'm not going. I was going to enjoy my 18th birthday and celebrate. But the Navy had other plans for me. And thank God, I believe that um, there was a reason, that connection with our spirit and that inner being that speaks to us. I was fortunate to listen to that part of me, to really listen and hone in on it and say, you got to go. And so off I went, and literally the military gave me the discipline and the stability and the structure to allow me to be who I am today, to allow me to be that individual that I am today.
So, just so I understand, when you were a teenager and you were struggling, you knew that you were gay. You knew that that was what was happening
Yes,
inside you.
because I knew that I was attracted to men early on, uh,
And
and I
because
didn't
of,
understand it. I didn't really
yeah.
understand it. It was a struggle because how can I want this if all my friends in my family, and it's abomination to what we are as human beings? Because growing up in a small little community in Española, New Mexico, where you're really, you don't know, you don't know, and in the 80s, 70s, 80s, yeah, you're sheltered.
And, though you and I had a very similar situation in that I knew very young as well. I mean, I didn't know what it was, but I knew that I would rather play the girls' games, hang out with the girls, and I didn't understand why the boys didn't like me. And I had a cousin at that time who would beat up the boys who would beat up me. And I mean, she was amazing. I actually just wrote something about that I posted on Substack. But I totally understand when you were talking about, oh yeah, rah rah rah, cheerleader, blah blah blah, and then suddenly you are attacked for just being yourself. And it really changes your whole mindset for years. Like, you start being careful and editing yourself.
And then joining the Navy, it just became even more so of an edit because now don't ask, don't tell.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to be perceived? And you can't be gay in the Navy. How are you going to survive? And so I wasn't. I've gays have always been in the Navy. I just wasn't. Hey
In the
girl,
Navy.
what's going on? I was. I'm gonna be this, but it doesn't matter. But to me, it did because this whole persona of how I had to show up in the world, or how I had to be, or how I had to be this masculine, tough guy. And through my Navy career, it was always a struggle because people who saw me, but they also wanted to know me. And to know me was to know me as a gay man, but I couldn't be that. And most of my friends that loved me, that were straight, loved me, but until they saw something different. And there
Mm.
was an incident that happened in the military where somebody found out I was renting, Navy was renting a place for me. The guy saw me with another guy. thought it was my best friend. And from there, it changed my whole. And I was only, what, 19 at the time. So now you have your straight friend asking you, "Are you a little faggot boy? You take it up the ass boy?" So
Wow.
how do you deal with that? And no matter what, I whatever came at me, I just knew that they just have to have proof. And I wasn't going to say, yes, I am.
But how did that affect your interactions with other gay men? Like when you found someone that you were attracted to that you wanted to get to know, but you knew you had to like edit yourself for this whole other huge part of your life.
Well, in the military, I really didn't have gay relationships within the military. I took it outside. I had a lot of my relationships were civilians and people that were outside of the military because I could have a life. I could be out there and do the things that I wanted to do and enjoy my life. So I never mixed them. But when that happened, I finally realized it was finally when I went to Spain when I really came into loving me or accepting me as a gay man. And that's when I decided if I can't tell people who I am, then unfortunately I don't want a straight person in my life. If I have to fear the fact that one day they're going to find out and I could get kicked out of the military. So I let the idea of that go of having straight friends in my life because I never wanted them to ask me, "Well, where's your girlfriend? What are you doing?" And it was a constant. Early on, it was easy because I could fake it, but there came a point where I didn't want to do it no more. I just wanted to be
Sure.
me, and I only hung around with gay friends when I started connecting with gay friends in the military, and it just became a gay circle within the military, our brotherhood. It just became stronger relationships, and those people that were in my younger days are still in my life today, and I'm just truly grateful for those individuals.
Was it difficult to find those individuals?
No, because you go out to the club and you're like, "Oh, you're from the ship."
Hey, I know you.
And we all have a gaydar, right? And so
Sure.
we all know, it's just inherently known that, and then you fear for those things, but then eventually you find out we are, and so then it's just that connection. And early on, one of my really good friends, Jack Shin, we're still friends today. He bought a house down the road, and he's taking care of his elderly father now. But those are the connections that I talk about. The brotherlyhood of those friendships are still there today.
And so when you found love, was it always with someone who was also in the Navy, or did you meet other guys outside of that?
Well, I remember at an early age that all I wanted to do is find me a husband. And as a gay man, just wanted to be loved.
Yeah, sure.
But the reality is that the first person that I met was 7 years older than me, and I moved in with him. The next thing you know, I was cooking, cleaning, doing all the beautiful things that you want and know to be in a relationship, like my parents in the heterosexual world. And I remember that the first year was amazing. Everything was fun and love. And next thing you know, this whole love addiction, I caught it. And it was more of I just wanted to be with this man and I wanted to create and I wanted him all to myself. And everything was about loving him and being with him. I didn't care about the military. It was there. I had a job, but it was about loving that man. And what I realized is he started doing these weird things and he was on porn sites and doing this and instead of walking away and holding my truth to my own value, I let my
Mm,
values go at that age.
mm,
And I struggled for the first year and then finally we stayed together. There was drama. And I didn't realize that that pain and that suffering would plague me all the way into my 50s. And really, it
mm.
plagued me like I never healed from that. And what I'm saying is that I never loved,
Mm-hmm.
really loved this human being that's right before you. I never took the time to heal and take the time to see the person I see today, to really look into his eyes and say, I'm sorry for the pain and suffering that I caused you.
Mm-hmm.
Know that we as gay men suffer so much because the stories and the things that happen to us, until we
Mm-hmm.
actually can see them and see our own insanity of the things that we create in our
Mm-hmm.
own mind, it 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 makes you suffer and makes those people around you suffer. And then you find constantly finding those unhealthy relationships that just repeat the same thing over and over and over again, until you're led to somebody that somehow shows you that there is good out there, that healthy, stable, bright light that you always been, but you didn't spend the time healing that part of you that just didn't understand, or maybe didn't want to understand. Avoid.
I think it's a little bit of both, right? You don't want to understand because then that requires change and looking at yourself. And I think a lot of us, especially when we're young, are so desperate to find love and acceptance that we're willing to be someone we're not. That, well, actually willing. I think we just give up being ourselves to be something that we think will attract someone. How old were you when you started realizing that, no, I don't want to do that anymore?
I think I started really early on because I was always aware. I just wasn't aware of the condition that I really didn't want to. I just kept attaching to unhealthy love. I think when I was in Spain, I met I left Virginia, and that was my first duty station, and I ended up in Spain. And Nacho was my boyfriend at the time, but he told me before I left, be careful who you allow in your life. And I didn't understand that. And when I ended up moving to Texas, I met somebody, and that was a 7 year journey of I didn't do the work. I didn't do the work early on, and I finally at 55, I finally had been doing the work and trying to be the best human being to this for the first time, and take the time to heal all of those, because the, those early on relationships that I had was disrespecting myself to the fullest, to letting my value go. But now I look at those, and I'm so grateful for each and every one of those relationships, because now I can look at those and say I'm a better human being because of every single person that came into my life, whether it was good, bad. It wasn't all bad, but there was parts of me that was just fleeting. I just didn't respect this person, rather than just to walk away and do the things that I needed to do for me. I wanted to make sure that I was taking care of somebody else and not taking care of this human. And I don't ever want to be put in that position ever again in my life, because I just want to be a light for me and then the people that come into my life now. And I don't want to have no negative story, no no negative energy towards the people that are in my space.
I mean, one of the things I love about you is that you're very open. As long, I mean, we've known each other maybe a year and a half, and one of the things I really appreciate is that you are very, you are filled with love, and you express that love, and you put yourself out there, and you let people know how you feel, and you, at least from what I think I'm seeing, is that you don't edit yourself to people. To me, I don't sense that at all, and I love that about you, because you are so open and embracing. It's what's the word? It's infectious. Like, you can just feel it when you're around. I really like that about you. Yeah. Are you blushing? There it is.
Hey, I was starting to turn red. What the hell? Whew. No, it's just hot in here. It's hot in here. I just got red.
Oh, you're too funny. You know, when good people come along to express themselves to us, and especially when we're young, right? We kind of, when the good people come, we sort of reject that because we think we're not deserving of it. And we put all this work into the people who actually aren't deserving of our love.
I spent 14 years in a relationship that I know we truly loved each other. There is not a shadow of a doubt that I was in a relationship that we loved each other.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, there's a saying that the end is in the beginning. And the reality, we were both broke. We were both,
Mm-hmm.
we both had come out of relationships that and had all this stuff in us, but we just wanted to be loved by each other. And that whole addiction, we both just whoosh, and it was just that fire and earth because he was fire and I'm earth. Sometimes if we don't own our truth and speak our truth to the core, and we start
Mm-hmm.
making each other's behaviors acceptable, and then at some point you keep talking and talking, and then there's just a wall, and then
Yeah.
that resentment comes in because now that love, that passion and everything, then there's a time you just shut down and you lose that person. I didn't even recognize myself, who I was,
Mm.
because of how I had just changed my reality to be that person for that person.
Mm-hmm.
And I can only speak from my own truth into my life. And it wasn't until I got shot in the ass, and I was just talking to somebody that I am grateful for getting shot in the ass because it changed my life. It changed my life forever. It changed our life, my ex-husband's life forever, because it took us to a directory of either coming together or exploding it. And
You
that's
you
what took place.
you mean actually like really shot in the ass, like with a bullet?
Yes.
Yes.
In
Wow.
2018, my life changed forever because me and my ex-husband were on vacation in Puerto Vallarta, and we were walking home from the clubs, and we had just gotten there. And I happened to look behind me, and all I saw was a man that was with a gun that was about to shoot. And I went to run, and next thing you know, he shot. I fell on the floor, and everything else from there was a blur. I was 5 days in the hospital, and the next thing you know, I was going home, and we went back. I couldn't drive for 3 months. I went into this whole thing of survival mode. My ex husband had PTSD, and it really changed our life forever. And I didn't realize at the time, but I should have gone to counseling just like he did. But I was in this whole other reality. And it literally took me a year to finally realize I had lost everything, this person. And at that point in my life, I walked away from everything. I just said, I'm done. If we can't figure this out, I just can't do it no more. And from that, my life changed forever. And I'm truly grateful for Mark. I know that we were meant to be with each other for that time. Unfortunately, we didn't grow together. We didn't grow together in that love and communication with that part of our life. So it ended, and I'm free now. I am a free because part of me the last 8 years I just went fucking crazy. I let myself go in a way that I never. I just needed to just be me. and not
Yeah.
allow anybody anything. I didn't owe anybody anything at this point in my life, and I just had to let myself do whatever I did. And maybe those things were not good, but they were good for me at the time. And here it is, almost 8 years later, and I can honestly say that I'm in a better place mentally, physically, and just grateful for the journey of this life that I've been given, this second chance in finding that love, in finding that love for the most important person I will spend the rest of my life with, and that's me. And that's the constant battle, is to love this person that I have become, and forgiving that person that hurt people, that made the wrong choice in whatever I've done in my life, but to know that I have finally arrived to forgive my past, to set it down and say I'm super blessed by that past, and now I'm moving forward in my life. And
Yeah.
it's taken so much work to finally realize that, and to forgive and to let go. And I'm truly grateful. I can say I'm moving on.
But it's never ending work, right? You have to continually keep it up. And that's kind of something that's a great segue into this next part I want to talk to you about is your faith and spirituality. Because I wanted to ask you about, you have always, since you were a little kid, had faith in God, right, in your life. And what I wanted to ask you is that when you were struggling with yourself and your identity, how did you reconcile your faith with that? And then today, as an adult who has become the person you are today, how has faith helped you do that?
I think, like I was saying earlier, when I was younger, I had the whole thing happen to me in elementary school, where the kids were calling me a fag. And that reality sent me into a spin of asking God for help, and asking why me and why. And I was fortunate that my parents, my mom loved me, my dad loved me. They had no idea um, I was gay, but it was the love and the support of my parents, just the way they showed up for me, that, and my father, um, gave me that space to allow me to be, and know that I was loved, loved. And so it wasn't a question about who I was. It was a question about me accepting the reality of who I was as a gay man, which didn't happen for many, many years. Um, Faith, my father, I remember going on a cruise. I was getting ready to go overseas, and my father, I wish every gay man could have a relationship like this with his father. My father sat down with me before I went on this gay cruise to go over to Europe. And he said, son, he goes, at some point, you have to stop giving your body away. He goes, because you give your energy up to other people's and other things. And he goes, it's important that you try to have strength and know that you don't have to do that anymore, son. So my father and I, we have a very deep relationship, and for him to tell me that, for him to have that much care, to know that he just
Mm-hmm.
loves his son, and to speak that truth into me, it just speak those awarenesses, and have helped me throughout my journey in this whole phase. And my father has a deep, deep faith of God and love, and he lost his father and mother at 5 years old, and then lost his two brothers and sister, just all this trauma. And what I finally realized is that our parents do the best that they can with what
Yeah.
they know. And my mom and dad, they both got together with trauma and they didn't know, but what they did know is they had love and they had faith. And they gave that to their children to know that no matter what, everything is going to be okay. And that deep
Yeah.
faith is what's got me still today. I'm a spiritual being having a human experience at the core. And I know that everything else, this is just a shell. I see people now and I don't bring in that story. I don't allow that story to change my behavior or be somebody else I'm not. And that's the amazing thing at 55. I finally get to own my own truth and keep my story right here. It's just me.
Wow. Is Jimmy? Are you both? I don't even know how to ask this because I'm not religious or spiritual. I have a sort of a different view of faith and spirituality. But is Jimmy? Are you guys on equal footing when it comes to?
So it's interesting because Jimmy, I was struggling a couple of years ago when I remember calling my sister and saying, I was crying and I was just really upset. And I was like, what's going on with my life? I can't figure this part out. And I remember praying to God and saying, God, please send me somebody that sees me, that knows me, that could just hold my space in a way that, because I know I could be a lot. And I just wanted somebody to see me. I, I, I know that about me, but I also know that I'm more aware of it now than ever before. And then there's that shift of when I am being a lot, I can shift it a little bit to have more empathy or have more kindness to the people around me because sometimes that can get the best of us.
Okay, before we go on, you need to describe a lot. What is a lot to you?
Loud, crazy. I didn't realize, but there was a guy at the gym the other day, Brandon, who was teaching the aerobic class. He's a aerobic instructor in San Francisco, and we've talked a couple of times, but not for any length. But he did a class last Saturday, but then I saw him the next day at the gym working out, and so I saw him from a distance, and we looked at each other, and it's like he's another individual. So I see you, I know you, and it just with the smile of his smile, we get each other, right? So I wave at him, and then that's it. And then all of a sudden he's coming towards me, and so then we start having this whole deep conversation about love and how he says he sees me and knows me and that I'm this beautiful soul and I said, well, I see you too. And he's and he's like, he goes, but I can tell you scare people away because your presence intimidates some people. Not all people, but people that don't see you get intimidated, he said. And I feel that that's the story that sometimes I place on people for whatever, and I won't talk to them because of my story, right?
Mm-hmm.
In my head about them, because I try to say hello to them. There's people at the gym where I try to say hello to, and I give them a couple chances, and after that, they just become a background. I won't ever say, I just won't. That's just me. But I've learned that sometimes you just be you. Just continue to share that love no matter what they don't. But at some
That's
point, if someone doesn't say hello, then I'm just gonna I just go I go quickly down the road. So uh, going back to Jimmy, so Jimmy and I met. I prayed this man into my life. I met him at church. He was at the Episcopal Church one day, and he was sitting behind me, and we were walking out and he started a conversation with me. And then from there, we went and had breakfast or lunch, and then we started hanging out, and then it just led from there. Jimmy was not Episcopalian. He really didn't have a religion. He just happened to be at Chipotle one day, and the reverends were there. It's a husband and wife. They were there, and they invited him over to have lunch with them, Reverend Jesse and Dan, and they invited him over, and they had a whole conversation and said, "Come on over to our church." So Jimmy came over to the church. We ended up meeting, and the rest is history. Then it must have been like a year later, me and Jimmy went through this whole phase of I just wasn't ready to receive him. Our alignment was off. We separated for a while. Mm-hmm. And while that was happening, Jimmy became a Buddhist.
He became a what?
Buddhist. He's a Buddhist now.
Oh, a Buddhist. Okay.
Yeah, he studied to be a Buddhist and went through the whole thing and has his little chapel here and does his chants. So he became a Buddhist.
When did you know that Jimmy was the one? Like he was the guy that you wanted to go, okay, I'm going to keep moving forward with this guy. I'm going to figure this out.
Just because the way he holds my space, because the way he vibrates in a different way. My past relationships were very, very different. All the same, pretty much all the same, of me having to do certain things. This is very different than how I am or was in my past. I no longer want to be none of that. And I have a peace in my heart that I haven't known in any other relationships.
Yeah.
That I've struggled with before in the past, that I guess at some point it just became comfortable to me or acceptable for those behaviors of mine to exist in an unhealthy relation, would end up mostly be always an unhealthy relationship that would end up causing a story in my head and resentment against the people that I love. I don't ever want to spend time with people that I can't have a truth conversation that may be hurtful, that may be the truth of it, but I never want to spend time if I can't speak honest and openly to people that they can't receive it. Because if they can't, then I have to be somebody else I'm not. And it's not fun because then I have these stories about them that I can't talk to them about because of their behaviors or just something. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to ever have to be around that if I'm unable to have an honest communication with the people that I love.
It was very similar when I met Derek. It was different, and I wanted it to be different. I didn't want to repeat the same things I was repeating before. And it's become the most or the best relationship I have ever had in my life, because I think when you suddenly allow yourself to be you and don't make yourself something else for your partner, you just be yourself. I think a real honest and beautiful love grows in that.
Then there's the whole monogamy versus non-monogamy. Since I was a young kid, like I told you, I always wanted a husband. But the reality of the first relationship I let go of my standards, my uniqueness about wanting that intimacy with only one person. There's something to be said about knowing that person is yours. Meaning when it comes to that intimacy, that sex, I will tell you, after my divorce, I had never done what I did, and I just went fucking crazy and just went and had sex and did this and did that. But no matter what, it was empty. Yes, the guys were beautiful, hot, whatever, but at the end of the day, it was just sex. It was just that carnal thing of wanting another human being in a way that you think it's hot, and it is at the time, but at some point that's all fleeting. It leaves you, and then you're left with this.
Yep.
And what do you really want? How does life prevail in that deepness of your soul and what you want as a human being for the rest of your life. Do you want to constantly go around, running around looking for that next best thing, that next hot thing? But guess what? At some point, you get old. Ain't no one gonna want this. Ain't no one gonna want this soul, man. Crazy man. But that's our reality, and I really want to have deep connection with the people that I surround myself and in love and acceptance of who I am and who they are as and respect.
How long into seeing Jimmy did you have that conversation, the monogamy conversation?
Well, we've been having it recently, more so because I struggle with it because of how I evolved as a human being, and I made it okay to not have monogamy, right? To be all of that. Jimmy had a 15-year relationship and a 31-year relationship with his partners. His husband was 31 years, but those two relationships cemented his way about him, and which is quite refreshing because in our community that's a very rarity in our. There's more out there than we know, but it's a rarity, and we don't speak about those things within our community about um, being an example to the younger generation.
Yeah, I mean, my view of it is that you have to determine the relationship you want and how it's going to work for you. If you want an open relationship and that works for you, great. If you want a monogamous relationship, I don't think that you should be shy about being open about that. Like you, I think that young people see it like, okay, well, I guess I just have to get used to being in open relationships for the rest of my life. And that's not the case. If that's what it turns out being and you love that and you and your partner are fine with that, great. It works. That's beautiful.
Yeah, yes. It works for a lot.
But you can have a monogamous relationship with someone you love.
Correct.
If that is something that you truly, truly want, you need to be upfront with yourself about it and with the person that you're getting involved with. 100%. So I missed. So you yourself struggle with the idea of monogamy, or you struggle with the sexual energy that comes at you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it really is because, and more so now, it seems like whenever I get in a relationship, there's these more things that pop up that are like,
Sure.
I see you, but I'm not here, that it's really what's important to me at this stage in my life. And I know what's important. I know what I want.
Yeah.
So that's that clarity that keeps me really grounded to know that this is my journey. This is what I truly wanted my whole life. I just took many detours to get here.
Now you and Jimmy are living together, moving in. You've moved in together already, correct?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And that's been how long now?
2 weeks.
Yeah, but you guys pretty much spent all your time together before that.
We do. And I also tell him that my friend Juan came in this weekend and I'm going out and I and it's finding that balance with knowing I enjoy, but I also want to have friendships outside of I have a lot of friends and I want to travel and I want to do those things. So it's finding that balance of how that works for us. And this weekend, my friend came in, we went out, Jimmy gives us our space and we go and we danced and then we came home and we did. So it was great. It was great.
How's that feel?
It feels really, really good. The next chapter of my life is finding purpose other than that. Because when I told you I walked away from everything, I walked away from my real estate business, my life that I knew it. I literally ran from it and took a break from it all. Real estate was always an enjoyment for me. I did it with my ex. We were very successful. We had a team. We were very, very busy. But I think there's a part of me that resented that part of my life because we were just so work, and we didn't take the time to make sure that we were okay for ourselves. But all that ended, and now it's finally trying to find a third career that brings me joy and happiness for purpose of waking up every day. Besides going to the gym, taking care of my dog, taking care of Jimmy, now I want to really find that next focus that will allow me to just wake up every day with passion and joy for something, doing something other than what I do today.
Any ideas?
There is, and it's creating a men's group, starting off small, a mastermind group that allows us to be more open and share our stories, kind of like what you do, but bringing people together in a way that and changing our community just a little at a time.
Yeah, I think it's really important that we share our stories. I think that we have, even, when we're younger, well, actually, even when we're older, we sort of have these stories in our head that, our lives aren't significant, or they're not important to put out there, or no one's going to learn anything from us. And I think that what I have discovered as I've aged is that everyone struggles, everyone questions where they're at. And I think, and like coming out stories, I think the more coming out stories we can get out there, someone can find themselves in one of those stories. Someone can relate to, even if it's just a small thing that you put out there, right? Like that, someone can relate to it and go, oh, okay, I'm not the only one who thinks that way or feels that way, or is hurting that way. Because like everyone's talking about that there's this male loneliness epidemic going on. And I don't think it's just men. I think it's people in general are lonely right now. And I think the more we put ourselves out there, the more we allow people to put themselves out there. Give them that freedom. And if one person catches what you're saying and goes, oh, okay, I'm not alone, then that's a good thing.
Yes, that's the next journey. And I did a life coaching course last year with Jay Shetty. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. He started his own life course class, and I took it last year. And what I found in that journey was the amount of people that are executives and people, most people, we just want to be heard. And in coaching, it's kind of what you do. You really listen. And all we do in coaching is we're shining a light on a different perspective, a different view. But we
Mm-hmm.
all have we all have our own answers to our own life's journey. We just need those people sometimes in our space to shine that light where we may not
Mm-hmm.
see within our own self. So that's the great thing about. And so with that is I would really like to create life coaches within the gay community in every state, where in every part of our life, as we get older, we all have purpose, and we could all be life coaches to the younger generation, to the older generation, to everyone.
Wow, that's cool. What would you say to someone right now who thinks that love is not in the cards for them?
I would really tell them to change the narrative, the perspective of that. The reality is that what we say, we become. And
Oh, wow, that's good.
the reality is the more I went into the negative, the more negative I brought into my life, and the more things just stirred up, and the more shit just came into my life. The minute I started changing and having faith and knowing and putting myself out there in a way that was love,
Mm-hmm.
the love
Mm-hmm.
just kept coming back. And at some point, the people that are telling those story, I just want to say that it may not be the love that you thought it was going to be, but it's going to be a love that you never imagined you could have possibly had. But
Yeah. Oh,
it also starts with you. People come into your life to give you that love. Be careful what you wish for, because when it's there, you could lose it. Part of that is learning to let go of a story of something that you imagine, but changing that narrative to be that person that the way you want to be loved. Start loving yourself that same way. Start loving yourself in a way that you could possibly never imagine loving yourself. Because when you do, that light and that love, people start coming to you. And then you get to decide what love you want and how you want it and what you want. But just be careful what you wish for, because our minds are the most powerful, amazing thing. If we're really good to it, we just shine that light on people and they just love us even more so. So that's my true answer with that.
Okay, final question. If you could go back to any moment in your life, sort of hovering over that moment, you can't change it, but you can re-experience it as an observer, what moment would that be?
As an observer, my mother died 11 years ago, and she was the most beautiful, smart woman I have ever met. And just being in her space and observing her loving me would be the most beautiful thing in my world too. And always, and I always do, because she's, after all, her name was Carol and I'm Carl. She just took the O out and gave me this most amazing, beautiful life that I have every day. And mothers have so much suffering and they hold so much pain. But I finally realized that I'm her son, and now I get to forgive and let go of that pain and be the most amazing, authentic, beautiful self to me. And that will heal her before I leave this earth, and just to be loved and to show love to this human being, that she gave me this beautiful life, that I cannot, to just be okay. Before she died, she said, "Mijito," she goes, "Do you have any questions?" And I said, "No, Mom. I'm just going to think of you every day. She goes, "No, mijito, I want you to always promise me to always take care of yourself." And I can honestly say, Mom, that I am doing that. And I'm doing it the best way I know how, by just being the most amazing version of me.
Wow. That is a perfect place to end. Thank you, Carl.
Thank you. Pleasure.
That was beautiful. Thank you for listening to this episode of A Queer Point of View, Friends, Loves, and Life. You can find me on Substack, YouTube, and Blue Sky, all at David Bigor. DM me some questions, send me some ideas, or just say hi. If you have a moment, please leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm David Bigor. Until next time, be bold, be free, and most of all, be you.